On what seemed like an ordinary Friday afternoon, the company unexpectedly organized a lucky draw event to boost employee morale. The office, already crowded and lively, grew even more energetic with cheers, laughter, and barely contained curiosity. Jennifer Walker, a smart marketing executive, slightly stubborn, and extremely allergic to anything involving games of chance, had planned to sit this one out, staying quietly in her usual corner with a cup of coffee in hand. But of course, things didn't go as planned. Her roommate and best friend, Kiki, wouldn't leave her alone, dragging her over with infectious enthusiasm, even writing Jennifer's name on the entry slip herself before shoving it into the raffle box. Who knows? Maybe you'll win an iPad or a paid vacation. Kiki grinned hopefully. The draw proceeded like any other corporate gathering, until Kiki screamed with joy after winning second prize, a month of fully paid leave. Jennifer barely had time to congratulate her before her own name was called across the room. She walked up to the stage with an awkward smile, silently praying the prize would be something harmless, like a set of free self-help books. It wasn't. The host announced cheerfully, "Grand prize, the honor of working beside the CEO for an entire year." The room fell silent for a second, then erupted into laughter. All eyes turned to Jennifer, half teasing, half sympathetic. She stood frozen on stage, her smile fading fast. A whole year, next to the CEO, it was as if fate was playing a cruel joke. Jennifer had yet to recover from the shock of her grand prize when the host enthusiastically announced the appearance of the new CEO to present the award. The room buzzed with excitement, everyone curious about the mysterious new leader, handpicked by the board and rumored to be too young to be a CEO. As the auditorium doors opened and footsteps echoed down the aisle, Jennifer turned to look, and froze. Roger Payne, wearing a tailored navy blue suit, the tall man with piercing eyes and a signature half-smile, stepped onto the stage like he himself was the real grand prize of fate. The spotlight lit up his chiseled features, neatly styled hair, and composed demeanor, though nothing could mask the arrogance Jennifer remembered all too well. Jennifer clenched her fists, half wanting to run off the stage, half wanting to faint on the spot. Roger Payne wasn't just the new CEO, he was also her childhood next-door neighbor and lifelong nemesis. They had lived side by side for 15 years, and if there had ever been an award for eternal rival, Jennifer would have nominated Roger without a second of hesitation. Memories came rushing back like a whirlwind, the time Roger accidentally spilled paint water all over her art project, the 3 a.m. alarm prank with him feigning innocence, or worst of all, her very first love letter turned into flyers posted all over the school gate, courtesy of none other than him. And now he, the same boy who once claimed being friends with Jennifer is harder than doing advanced calculus, was standing there, smirking meaningfully as he handed her the prize. "What a coincidence, Jennifer Walker," Roger said in his low, calm voice, tilting his head with a look of playful challenge. "I never thought I'd see you again, as your boss." Camera shutters clicked rapidly. Jennifer was nudged closer to Roger for the obligatory photo. She forced a polite smile, trying to keep her expression neutral even as her inner voice screamed, "Why is the universe doing this to me?" "Smile a little," Roger leaned in and whispered teasingly. "You'll be sitting next to me for an entire year, after all." Jennifer turned toward the camera, flashing a radiant, professional smile, while mentally plotting the fastest route to resignation. No one at the company had any idea that behind Jennifer's stiff grin next to the handsome new CEO lay an entire chronicle of long-standing childhood feuds. Jennifer and Roger had been next-door neighbors throughout their early years. At first, they played together simply because there were no other kids on the block. But that innocent childhood friendship quickly transformed into a cold war, or rather, a war that sometimes simmered and sometimes exploded, when Roger turned 10 and discovered that annoying Jennifer was the most entertaining thing in the world. Every time Jennifer made a small mistake, like spilling milk or hiding her test scores, Roger would somehow accidentally reveal it to her mom. One time, He even staged a fake scene to make it look like she and her brother had drawn on the living room wall. The real culprit? Everyone knew. But in the end, Jennifer got punished with 2 weeks of house chores while Roger sat nearby munching cookies with a smug smile. By the time they hit middle school, Roger's pranks had leveled up. Jennifer once wrote love letters to 3 different boys at school out of sheer frustration with Roger. Her plan had been to deliver just one and destroy the other 2. But somehow, all 3 letters reached their intended recipients on the same day. Sender, Jennifer Walker. Accidental mailman, Roger Payne. The result? The whole school was buzzing, the 3 boys backed away quietly, and Jennifer was stuck with the nickname High School Heartbreaker for the next 3 years. But the most crushing blow came in college. Jennifer fell in love for the first time with a gentle engineering student who loved books, cats, and most importantly, wasn't Roger. Everything was going sweetly until, somehow, the boy discovered her glorious past involving those 3 infamous love letters. A suspicious coincidence? Jennifer knew exactly who was behind the information leak. And she swore she would never forgive Roger Payne. Never. Yet now, she was bound by the grand prize to sit beside him for an entire year, in the same office, at the same meeting table, breathing the same air. The universe really had a twisted sense of humor just when Jennifer thought things couldn't get worse, because spending 8 hours a day next to Roger Payne was already enough to fray her nerves. He struck again. My place is being renovated. It's too noisy to sleep, Roger said casually over lunch at the company cafeteria. I'm thinking of staying at your place for a few days. Jennifer choked on her drink. My place? Roger shrugged. Who else won the grand prize with me? And somehow, either due to a brief lapse in judgment, or maybe because Kiki had accidentally let slip that Jennifer lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment, that very afternoon, Roger showed up at her doorstep with 2 suitcases, a stack of documents, and a smile that made her want to slam the door in his face. And just like that, from feuding co-workers, they became reluctant housemates. The next morning, when Jennifer stepped out of her bedroom, she found Roger making coffee in the kitchen. No jacket, sleeves rolled up, hair tousled in that annoyingly perfect way. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a premium coffee commercial. Jennifer turned around, closed the door, and whispered to herself, "This is a nightmare." A walking, smiling, coffee-brewing nightmare. The odd pair began functioning like a strange machine, leaving the house together in the morning, arriving at work side by side, clocking out at the same time. They were spotted in the elevator, at the nearby diner, even pushing a shopping cart together at the grocery store on weekends, and, naturally, rumors began to spread throughout the office. Is Jennifer dating the new CEO? No way. She hates her boss type. But Roger? The man looks like he walked off a magazine cover. Who would say no? Jennifer realized the more she denied it, the more people believed. She grew increasingly irritated when coworkers winked and asked, "Fun night," or when HR mistakenly sent her and Roger power duo employee newsletter. Roger, on the other hand, didn't seem the least bit bothered. In fact, he looked amused every time Jennifer blushed over some absurd rumor. "I think we should start matching outfits," he said one morning. "You know, to make it more convincing. You say one more word and I swear I'll throw you out." Roger simply sipped his coffee and smiled. "Then I'll sleep on the couch." "Oh, and I bet there's already a new thread about us in the company group chat." Jennifer screamed internally and asked herself, just how far does the universe plan to test my patience? The new week had just begun, and Jennifer hadn't even taken her first sip of morning coffee when an urgent email from the admin department popped up in her inbox. Desk relocation as per CEO's directive. At first, she thought it was a mistake. But just minutes later, a logistics staff member knocked on her door, silently unplugged her monitor, carefully packed her files, and said gently, "Your desk is being moved to the 20th floor. The executive office. Jennifer nearly froze. The 20th? At that exact moment, Roger appeared, still holding his cup of coffee, looking perfectly calm, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. I figured sharing an office would save us time on back-and-forth communication. Besides, you did win the grand prize, didn't you? Jennifer shot him a sharp glare. Do I have the right to say no? No, Roger smiled. But you can choose the window seat or the spot near the bookshelf. And just like that, Jennifer became the only person working in the CEO's office. The space was spacious, luxurious, and so quiet she could hear every keystroke. Ironically, the new desk was extremely comfortable. There was hand-brewed coffee, a private printer, and occasionally, Roger brought her toasted bread. At first, Jennifer tried to maintain distance, only speaking when absolutely necessary, avoiding eye contact as much as possible. But amid the long work hours and pressure, she slowly realized that Roger wasn't exactly the childhood devil she had remembered. He no longer played pranks or teased her endlessly. Instead, he quietly helped her fix presentation slides late into the evening, handed her a painkiller when he noticed she had a headache, and sometimes just sat beside her in silence when she was too tired to speak. Jennifer started noticing the little things, the way Roger tapped the table when deep in thought, how he furrowed his brow reading reports, and how his eyes softened every time they met hers. Though he still teased her now and then, it no longer felt careless or annoying. It felt oddly intimate. One late evening, they were both staying behind to finish an urgent proposal. Jennifer accidentally spilled her glass of water across the desk. Instead of getting angry, Roger just smiled and handed her a napkin. "You're still as clumsy as you were in elementary school," he said gently, not with mockery, but with a kind of tender nostalgia. Jennifer was speechless, her heart skipping a strange beat. She met his gaze, not the gaze of an arrogant CEO or an old nemesis who used to drive her mad, but the gaze of someone who was beginning to care, and she realized that their strange relationship was shifting, moving from adversaries to curious companions, to something she wasn't quite ready to name yet. Jennifer couldn't quite remember the exact moment when things began to shift between her and Roger. Maybe it was the evening he made her a cup of hot cocoa after work, or the time he gently wiped a smudge of lipstick from the corner of her mouth after lunch. A small gesture, quick and subtle, but it left her frozen in place for several seconds. Day by day, Roger's behavior grew stranger, not the overt kind of flirting, but rather a series of subtle claims of ownership, so discreet that others saw only harmless closeness, while Jennifer felt like she was losing her mind. Whenever a male colleague came near her desk, Roger would appear, almost on cue. Sometimes he'd casually place a hand on her back or adjust her collar, brief, fleeting touches that clearly said, "Someone's already paying attention to her." And the worst part? He did it all with a completely neutral expression. Jennifer began to question everything. Was this some new, sophisticated form of revenge? Or was he genuinely into her? She tried to keep her distance, reminding herself that she was probably reading too much into it. But Roger kept throwing her off balance. A glance that lingered longer than necessary. A light touch on her neck when she adjusted her necklace. The way he watched her during presentations, not looking at the slides, but at her every time it happened. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to keep a straight face. She didn't want to be the first to fall. She didn't want to be the one to confess first, and somehow, Roger seemed to know that. The silent game began. They still talked about work, still exchanged sarcastic remarks after hours, but between them was a charged tension, filled with lingering glances, accidental touches, and double meanings hidden in everyday words. One afternoon, as Jennifer was getting ready to leave the office, Roger walked over and handed her an umbrella. "It's about to rain." "You forgot yours," he said, casually. "How do you know?" Because I always pay attention to you, Roger replied, looking straight at her, his eyes steady and sincere. Jennifer froze, her hand tightening around the umbrella handle. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't teasing. That was a confession. Even if it wasn't said outright that night, Jennifer tossed and turned in bed, wide awake. She asked herself, if this really is a silent battle of who confesses first, am I already losing? Then, on a weekend evening, Jennifer received a call from her mother, her voice excited. This weekend, we're having dinner with the Payne family, sweetie. It's been a while since we've seen Roger's mother, and it'll be a good chance to talk about the future. Jennifer froze. The future? She didn't even need to ask what her mother meant by a few things about the future. Her mom and Roger's mom had been best friends for ages, always dreaming that their two childhood sweethearts would one day end up together. In the past, when she and Roger were constantly bickering, Jennifer found the idea ridiculous. But now, things were starting to change, even if she didn't want to admit it. The dinner took place at an elegant, cozy restaurant. The atmosphere between the two families was warm and cheerful at first, until Jennifer's mother suddenly spoke up, half jokingly, half seriously. Roger, now that you're a CEO and Jennifer's grown into a responsible young woman, what do you two think about considering an engagement? Jennifer nearly choked on her drink. She turned to Roger, silently begging him to laugh it off, to politely deflect with something like, we're both busy with work, or maybe we should get to know each other more first. But instead, Roger smiled calmly and replied, I completely agree, ma'am. Actually, I've been thinking about that for quite some time. The entire table fell silent for a beat. Jennifer sat frozen, staring at Roger like he had just transformed into an alien. After dinner, on the way home, she couldn't hold it in any longer. What the hell was that? You agreed to an engagement in front of my parents, out of nowhere. Roger simply chuckled, hands in his pockets, replying with ease, because I want to. And because you need a little push to realize how you really feel. Jennifer was speechless. She was used to his teasing, to the smug glances, to the subtle little territorial moves, but this was the first time Roger had said something so clear, so direct, and so undeniably serious. The next day, Roger summoned Jennifer for an important meeting late in the afternoon, something she had become quite used to after spending nearly a year sitting beside him. But when the elevator doors opened on the top floor, she stopped in her tracks. It wasn't a meeting room, it was the rooftop, transformed into something straight out of a fairy tale. Warm golden lights strung all around, white silk ribbons fluttering gently in the breeze, soft piano music playing in the background. In the middle of it all stood a round table covered in red roses, and a large screen displaying images from their childhood, photos of 5-year-old Roger pulling little Jennifer's hair. Of the two of them having a water balloon fight in 6th grade. Of graduation day, when she threw a piece of paper at his face. And then, more recent photos, sitting beside each other in the CEO's office, Roger looking at her with an expression she had never truly noticed before. Jennifer turned around and saw Roger walking toward her, holding a small red velvet box. I know I used to be the annoying kid, the difficult colleague, and maybe your lifelong childhood enemy, Roger said, his voice softer than she'd ever heard. But you've also been the only person I've ever kept my eyes on, from then until now. He got down on one knee, opening a small velvet box to reveal a sparkling ring. Please, let me keep teasing you for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me, Jennifer Walker? Jennifer felt as if her heart had stopped for a few seconds. She had tried to deny it, tried to keep her guard up, tried to win the who confesses first war. But now, looking at Roger, the boy who once wrecked her childhood, who had turned her entire office life upside down, offering his heart to her, Jennifer knew one thing for sure: she had lost, and she smiled, bathed in soft music and warm glowing lights. I say yes. Just one day after the fairy tale proposal, the news CEO Roger Payne engaged to his personal assistant Jennifer Walker, spread like wildfire on the company's internal social media and quickly spilled into the public within hours. Slack exploded. Internal emails buzzed like a beehive. Everyone was talking, speculating. When's the wedding? Was it really an office romance? And wait, so they were in love all along? Jennifer walked into the office that morning as if stepping into the eye of a storm. Everyone looked at her with a mix of excitement and curiosity. Kiki, her best friend and the first to suspect that their boss had feelings, nearly screamed across the office, "You're really engaged? Is it because of that lucky draw?" Jennifer hadn't even had a chance to reply when Kiki pulled out her phone and pointed to a photo on social media, posted by Roger himself. It was a picture of Jennifer asleep at her desk. The afternoon sunlight cast a warm glow on her face, her hair slightly tousled, lips gently pursed as if dreaming of something sweet. The angle was intimate, beautifully framed, and what caused the most commotion was the simple caption beneath it, "My favorite view at work." Jennifer's eyes widened. Wait, when was this? How did I not know? Kiki grinned knowingly. Roger posted it 2 months ago. Everyone thought it was just a deep quote, turns out it was real? Jennifer blushed bright red, her heart fluttering with a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Since when had Roger taken that picture? And why that moment, so private, so peaceful, and so gentle it made her heart tremble? At that moment, a thought flashed through Jennifer's mind like lightning. Were all of these things really just coincidences? She began to piece everything together, the ridiculous grand prize of sitting next to the CEO for a year, Roger conveniently moving in just when his house was under renovation, her desk being relocated straight into the CEO's office, the way Roger's eyes always seemed to linger, just a bit too long, and that photo, posted before she had even realized her own feelings. Jennifer fell into a state of semi-suspicion. She marched straight into the CEO's office, where Roger sat calmly at his desk, working as if nothing had happened. As if the photo hadn't just sent company socials into a frenzy. As if he hadn't just shattered every emotional wall she had tried so hard to build. "Roger," she said, arms crossed over her chest. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you?" Roger looked up, the corners of his lips curling into a soft smile, offering no denial. "I won't deny it," he said. "But I wouldn't call it a plan. Let's just say, the moment you walked into this company, I knew that if I didn't find some way to keep you close, you'd slip away again." Jennifer blinked in surprise. Roger stepped toward her, his gaze suddenly serious. "I couldn't let you walk away from me again. So, if sitting next to the CEO for a year was the only way to keep you around, then I'm more than happy to give you that grand prize for a lifetime." Jennifer didn't know whether to laugh or be furious, but her heart, once again, skipped a beat under that gaze. That afternoon, while the company's internal network was still buzzing with the news of their engagement, Jennifer quietly stepped into the CEO's office with a storm of emotion swirling inside her. Roger stood by the window, the golden afternoon light casting a halo around his shoulders. He turned around and gave her that familiar smile, the one that used to drive her mad but now made her heart flutter. Jennifer walked forward, stopping right in front of him. "Roger Payne," she said, her voice more serious than usual. "I have one question." He raised an eyebrow and gave a slight nod. "I'm ready to answer, as long as it's not about this quarter's KPIs." Jennifer didn't laugh. Instead, she reached up, grabbed his tie, and gave it a gentle tug, pulling him closer, until there were only a few centimeters between them. "You love me, don't you?" she asked, eyes locked onto his, unblinking. Roger was silent for a moment. The air felt like it froze in place. Then he smiled, gently, like the storm of words in his heart had finally found a way out. "Yes," he whispered. "I love you. Since the day you were that little girl arguing over crayons. Since the day you secretly wrote love letters just to spite me. Since the day you left, and I couldn't pull you back. And, since the day you walked into this office like a whirlwind and turned my world upside down, in the warmest way possible. Jennifer didn't have time to respond before Roger leaned in and kissed her, a gentle but certain kiss, carrying all the emotions that had been bottled up for years. At that exact moment, click, the door opened, a young secretary walked in, holding a stack of files, and froze. Her eyes widened as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. Roger and Jennifer pulled apart instantly, but it was too late. A second of silence stretched into what felt like a century. I'm so sorry, I'll come back later, the secretary stammered, blushing furiously as she spun on her heel, nearly walking into the wall as she exited. Jennifer covered her face with both hands. Oh my God, this is going to be all over the company. Roger shrugged, casually adjusting the tie that Jennifer was still loosely holding. Well, it was bound to come out eventually. Besides, I achieved 2 major milestones today. What? She looked at him suspiciously. First, I officially confessed my love to you. Jennifer blushed, and second, he kissed her lightly on the forehead. We just gave the secretary's office something to talk about for an entire week. And indeed, that afternoon, the news that Jennifer Walker pulled the CEO's tie and then kissed him right in the office became the hottest topic everywhere, from Slack and the internal Facebook group to even the notoriously quiet accounting team chat. But among all the whispers and gossip, Jennifer only cared about one thing. She had finally heard the confession from the man who was once her childhood enemy, and now the one slowly softening her heart. And that kiss, unexpected as it was, marked the beginning of a new chapter, warmer, clearer, a chapter where neither of them would hide their feelings anymore. After that earth-shattering office confession, no one in the company doubted the relationship between CEO Roger Payne and his special assistant Jennifer Walker. Even after going public, Roger maintained his signature domineering style, picking Jennifer up every morning, ordering lunch for 2, finishing work together, and video calling her at night to ask, "Did you drink enough water today?" Even when Jennifer was in another meeting room, he'd still find time to message her, "Do you miss me, my dearest colleague?" Everyone around them was both jealous and exasperated. Her best friend Kiki even exclaimed once, "Are you his girlfriend or a magnet that the boss can't detach from?" Jennifer could only laugh awkwardly. But deep down, she knew, every look, every small gesture from Roger was filled with genuine care and love. The man who once was her childhood nemesis was now the one holding her hand, helping her walk through gossip, scrutiny, and whispered rumors, with a love that was mature and brave. A year later, the company held its annual lucky draw event again. Jennifer stepped up on stage, holding her ticket, shooting Roger a warning glare. "If I win this, sit next to you for another year prize again." But fate wasn't done with her just yet. The host called out loudly, "This year's grand prize is an official proposal ticket. And the winner is Jennifer Walker." The crowd erupted, lights dimmed and focused on the stage. Suddenly, the backdrop shifted. A large screen lit up, showing childhood photos, little Jennifer pouting over a cookie, little Roger hiding behind a tree, and then more recent moments, Jennifer napping on her desk, Roger placing a coat over her during a late-night shift. Then Roger walked out, dressed in an elegant white suit, holding a sparkling ring. He knelt down in front of everyone. "Jennifer Walker," he began, his voice steady, heartfelt. "Once my childhood friend, my rival for toys, my reluctant teammate, and now, the woman I love more than anything. Would you accept the biggest prize of my life, becoming my wife?" Jennifer bit her lip, eyes brimming with tears, and nodded, "Yes, and once I've won, I'm keeping it forever." Thunderous applause erupted. Kiki sobbed uncontrollably. The HR department passed around tissue boxes, and the entire company cheered as if it were a festival. This love story began with a random draw, from silly childhood pranks, misunderstandings, rivalries, and years apart. But in the end, it all seemed written by fate to bring these two people back to each other. Roger and Jennifer weren't just an office couple that went viral on social media, they were living proof of a simple truth: sometimes, destiny doesn't arrive with fireworks, it comes in childhood bickering, familiar glares, and someone who always sits beside you without ever leaving. And just like that, from one little raffle ticket, they won the greatest prize of all, each other.